All right, hello pre-calculus students. Mr. Hazelhorst here, bringing you a short video on Chapter 10, Section 5. And in this section, we are going to be classifying conics. So can we take just that expanded form of the equation? Can we analyze it and identify if we have ourselves a parabola, a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola? All right, so let's jump right into it today. So first off, as we think about that equation in its expanded form, ax squared plus bxy plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0, we can take a look at that and then analyze whether or not, by looking at the discriminant, which type of conic section we have. And if you think about the term discriminant, that goes back to our quadratic equation days, and we think about setting things up in that quadratic equation. That's where what's underneath the radical sign in the quadratic equation is what's known as a discriminant. So that's why you see the b squared minus 4ac. And we can see that b is just simply the coefficient of the xy term. If you do not have an xy term present, then that would be 0. A is the coefficient of the x squared term, and c is the coefficient of the y squared term, and the other coefficients we really don't stress about. All right. Now, all the equations that we've worked with so far in this chapter have really have not had an xy term. That's going to cause something known as rotation of conics. But we're just going to focus on identifying the type of conic at this point. All right. So let's jump into a couple of examples, and you can see it's very simple. We just find the value of the discriminant. If that value comes out to be negative, then we either have an ellipse or a circle, and that would be determined once we set the equation into its standard form. If that discriminant is equal to 0, we have a parabola, and if that discriminant is greater than 0, it's positive, then we have ourselves a hyperbola. All right? So let's take a look at a couple of examples here. This is pretty simple. Will be pretty quick and short. So let's take A here. All right. So if we start out and we begin by setting up our discriminant, all right, we're just going to recognize again the coefficient of the xy term is b, coefficient of the x squared term is a, coefficient on the y squared or y term is c, and we're going to go ahead and set that into our discriminant. So I'm just simply going to take b squared minus 4 times a times c. A is 2, c is 2, right? So we do simple little math work here. We end up with 9 minus 16, which is a negative 7. Now, because that value is negative, right, again, that's going to determine which type of conic section we have. So without even putting this into standard form, I can quickly identify that this is either going to be an ellipse or a circle. And again, which one of those it would be would become clear once we went through the completing the square process and set this into its standard form. But it is that simple, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's do a couple more here real quick. Fly through these examples relatively quickly. So do the same thing here. We set up our discriminant. So negative 6, that's my b value, squared, minus 4 times a, which in this case is 1, coefficient on the x squared term, times c, coefficient on the y squared term. So again, simple little math here. Negative 6 squared is 36. Negative 4 times 1 times 9 is a negative 36. And we end up with 0. So because our discriminant in this case is 0, that means in this situation we are going to have a parabola. All right, so one more here, again, real quick. Set things up in our discriminant. So we'd have b squared, so 8 squared, minus 4 times a, which in this case is 3, c in this case is 4, again, dealing with my squared terms. Again, you can tell I'm not worried about any other coefficients other than those 3. So we end up with 64 minus 48, which gives us 16, and we now have a positive value. So because this number is positive, that is our hyperbola. if I can spell hyperbola here correctly. All right. So it really is that simple. All right. Again, finding your discriminant, calculating its value, looking at how that matches up to the statements on the previous slide, and you're done. All right. So that is your short little lesson over section 5 today. And so your homework assignment for the weekend is to just do that with problems 13 through 23 odd. Now, when you look in your textbook, there's going to be some other directions. All we want you to do is classify those utilizing the discriminant. Don't worry about any other directions on those problems on your assignment. And you guys have a great weekend.